If it's not already obvious, Stardew Valley is definitely my favorite game I have ever come across, and as ConcernedApe, the creator of Stardew, recently announced there would be a new update coming out, Update 1.6, and has even more recently shared part of what we should expect from that, I've got to thinking what I would love to see as changes or improvements to the game. I also want to note that I play entirely on Nintendo Switch, meaning I've never had access to mods that have been created. I have purchased the game on pretty much every platform, but that's a me problem. So yes, some of these things may be available through mods, but I'm focusing on what's on the actual base game. Side note, with that being said, I also was thinking of making a video sometime in the future about different ways to customize your farm in Stardew without mods, so if you'd want to see that, definitely let me know in the comments. The number one thing that I would absolutely love to see changed in the game is the ease of automation. What I mean by this is that I would love for it to be a lot less hands-on, especially in the late game. Right now, the closest thing I feel there is to an attempt at this is the hopper that can be purchased for 10 key gems in Key's Walnut Room, or it can be crafted using 10 hardwood, 1 iridium bar, and a radioactive bar after purchasing the recipe from Key's Walnut Room for 50 key gems. Also, please forgive me if I'm pronouncing his name incorrectly, I'm not really sure how. This machine acts as a chest that automatically feeds what's inside the machine in front of it. If you haven't used this before, you might be thinking, that sounds great, isn't that exactly what you're wanting? But the main issue is that once whatever task the machine it's feeding into has been completed, it doesn't automatically feed the next item in until you've been able to physically collect the item. If that's not making sense, let me give you a quick example. If we take this preserves jar and set up the hopper behind it, we can fill up the hopper with as many fruit or vegetables or whatever can be put into a preserves jar, and whatever is first is automatically fed into the hopper. As great as this is, you can see that once the preserves are ready, it doesn't continue to feed in the next fruit or vegetable until I've come and picked up the one that has been completed. I definitely think that this can be improved, and here are a couple ways as to how. I think an easy solution would be that when it's feeding a product into the machine that will produce the same result as the previous item, they should be able to stack until the item being fed through will no longer produce the same result. Although not perfect, it feels a lot more intuitive to me and a whole lot more productive. Another solution I think could be for another form of machine similar to the hopper that sits at the front of the machine to catch or collect the finished product. This would make it so that the items in the hopper would be able to continually be fed through, being much more efficient and less hands-on. Although it would take up more space, I personally would be fine with that if it meant that I don't have to collect items from these machines potentially multiple times a day. Another change or improvement I would love would be to have the ability to design your own clothing in some capacity. Because Stardew is a pixel-based game, I may be naive in saying this, but I imagine it would be fairly easy to add this in. If you're familiar with Animal Crossing, I'm thinking of how in Animal Crossing there's the Able Sisters clothing shop, where you have the ability to actually make your own designs for your shirts and other items in the game. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that the designing function is done through a pixel-based artboard, so I feel like it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility to add in a similar interface into Stardew, especially because we already have the ability to tailor and dye our own clothing. I also want to mention that when looking through the options of clothing that ConcernedApe has already made, he has already created the perfect base clothing to work off of. We have options like the basic pullover, the crop top shirt, the tube top, the strapped top, and the list goes on. All of these options are kind of the perfect blank slates to create your own pattern or design on. Honestly, I just really want to be able to create a purple shirt with a cute little purple junimo on it. Is that really too much to ask for? In that same vein of having more freedom of design, I think it would be really cool if there was more ability for personalization with pathways and signs. Again, because it's a pixel-based game, I feel like a similar pixel artboard to what I was talking about with the clothing could also be used for signage. Currently, there are these 3 options for signs. Hopefully I'm not missing any. But at the moment, the only way to display anything is by taking an item and placing it on. However, I think it would be cool if there was a mechanic where either you could create the artwork for the sign through the pixel-based artboard, as I mentioned before, or even perhaps through a more Minecraft approach where you can type a phrase or something. And with that, if it was an artboard approach, I feel like it could be interesting if it were to be unlocked from a heart event with Leah where she could teach you how to illustrate. That might be cool. In terms of pathways, there actually are quite a few that are available to choose from. I think my issue lies where a few of the pathways seem a little bit stagnant when placed next to each other, where I'd love if they looked a little more natural instead of uniform. I think that the cobblestone path currently does a good job of this. I would also just love to see even more designs, maybe something incorporating a grassy look. At this point, I'm kind of being a little extra. I believe it was the 1.5 update that introduced Ginger Island and all that that brings, and honestly, that was such an incredible update with such incredible content. To me, it honestly felt like it brought new life into the game as a whole. But with the introduction of Ginger Island and the small farm you acquire there, I had some thoughts that I personally think would make it that much better. To start off, I would love if there was an ability to have buildings like the Junimo huts mainly, but even potentially a pond or a barn or a coop or whatever else built here. I mentioned specifically the Junimo huts because the main thing I have found useful here is the space for growing crops like starfruit and ancient fruit all year round, and having a Junimo hut built here would be extremely helpful in making it so that I don't have to be so hands-on checking to see when the crops are ready. I guess that really just goes back to my want of better automation throughout the game. I also think that something like the Junimo hut would be feasible here because they're bought through the Wizard's magical book catalog thing, so I feel like it's not out of the realm of possibility, whereas I guess I could understand Robin being more reluctant to build on the island, but it would still be pretty cool. I also think that it would be interesting if even more builds were introduced that could be purchased from the archaeologist Professor Snail in the field office, but again, I'm just being a little extra here. With all of that, focusing on a specific item in the game that I think could use improvement with addition of Ginger Island would be the ability to see the stats of both the main farm and the Ginger Island farm on the farm computer. At this time, the farm computer is a craftable equipment that, when placed on your farm, will display an analysis of your farm with information like how much hay you have in the silo, how many crops are ready, how many machines are ready, and so on. Even when putting this machine in Ginger Island, it will still display stats of only the main farm. I think it would be really nice if when it's placed on Ginger Island, it shared stats about your farm there, or if there was a different craftable farm computer made specifically for your Ginger Island farm. I know this list is getting long and I'm kind of starting to feel like when a kid is writing a Christmas list and it just goes on and on and on, but I would also really love if there were even more pet options. When the game starts, there are currently 6 different cats and dogs that you can choose from, but how cool would it be if there was also like a black cat option, for example? Or, to go a step even further, different types of animals entirely. Like imagine owning a gecko or a turtle or something. But aside from the starter pets, I think it would be super cool if there was more variety when buying a horse in the game. Currently, all horses in the base game look like this, but I would love if we could choose from a few different horses, even if it was just a color difference between them. This next one is kind of out of left field, but I would love if the Junimos could be incorporated into the game and your life in the game even more so, aside from their current lives of practically being slaves to you and your crops. I don't fully have this idea fleshed out or anything, I just like to think about how cute it would be to have a Junimo or two bopping around your house. No idea how that would work, I just really want more Junimos in my life, I guess. Another thing that I would love to see that is seriously entirely vain, and I'm probably the only person to want this specific thing, but I would really just love if there was a hairstyle that I felt matched my actual hair without being ugly from all or some angles. I know, vain. Currently, I wear this hairstyle, it's number 49, and although I do think it looks nice from all angles, I think I would love it even more if it was shorter to match my hair and had less of a full side part. I just feel like all the middle parted hair in the game looks a little crazy. And then there's some that I think would look cute from the front, but they look not so good from the side, which to me is kind of important because I feel like in Stardew you see their side profile a lot. The updos are generally quite cute, but that's besides the point. Okay, after that pretty unrelatable point, I feel like I need to close off this video now before I mention even more ideas that you probably would roll your eyes at. But anyways, there are probably a ton more changes that would make this incredible game even better, so I would love to hear a change or improvement or addition that you would love to see in Stardew Valley yourself. And I just want to be clear that all of these ideas I'm sure are not entirely feasible. I'm not trying to say with any of them that ConcernedApe needs to put these in or the game sucks or anything. Seriously, I don't want to offend anyone or anything, I'm just putting out my own thoughts and opinions. I feel like I've made it pretty clear that I'm a huge fan of the current version of Stardew Valley, and honestly, even if he never made another update, which I really didn't think he would be making any new big updates after announcing his new game, The Haunted Chocolatier, I would still be here playing the game and loving all of it. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and if you stuck around this long, I appreciate you so much. As I'm making this video, we just hit 4,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I'm seriously so thankful for all of the support. I am so excited to be making more content, especially long-form content for you guys. Unfortunately, I am still very new at this, and it takes me much longer than I'd like it to. But I do have so many ideas that I'd love to make, so be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one.